George, still single, not many friends. Oh, and now you're anxious. You're pathetic. Look at everything you've been given. You're worthless. I knew I was hurting. And at uni, I'd watched some videos of monks doing backflips. I'd never done any martial arts. Literally, it's as arbitrary as that. And I wrote in my diary, go learn in the monastery. And so I took a flight to China, anxious and confused. Arrived at the monastery gates. Big courtyard, walked into the courtyard, swirly roofs. There's a monk sweeping the floor. I go up to her and I say, Ni hao, Kung Fu. If I just get the job, if I just get the money, if I just get the kids, if I just get the house, if I just get the job, then I'll be enough. Except from we're conditioning our nervous system to always be having this happiness and contentment outside of ourselves. So we never arrive. Let go of what isn't serving us. Come into the present moment as a refuge, as a place to lead our lives from, step by step, piece by piece, part by part, day by day, breath by breath. Live life with more skill, ease, and flow and wu wei.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Illuminating Dialogues number 32, where I have the pleasure of talking to George Thompson today. How are you, George?
I'm amazing, Jhoty. Great to be in conversation with you.
Thank you. And it's such a pleasure after watching all your content to sit down and have a dialogue and hopefully share your wisdom. So for those of you who are not familiar with George, I'll do a short introduction. So George Thompson started his YouTube channel confused and anxious, a bit like me. However, stumbled across ancient ideas and practices traveling into the distant mountains of China at Master Gu's Tai Chi school. With his documentary, now watched over by 15 million people and over 250k subscribers, George is helping you, I, and humanity have a great potential for peace and balance. At a time when environmental crisis, mental health challenges, and a deep state of disconnect pervades our world, George's new documentary, The Subtle Art of Losing Yourself, delivers an essential message of hope. It shows how our stories we construct about ourselves not only shape our lives, but the fate of our planet, and when we connect with our true selves, balance is possible for people and our planet. I've just finished watching your documentary and it just took me to so many places. I'd love to explore your journey and that documentary. But before we do so, this podcast is called Illuminating Dialogues. It's a space for us to come together and perhaps travel to a place we haven't gone before and illuminate ourselves and hopefully the listeners as well. So my first question to you, George, is what lights you up?
Well, firstly, your smile. I love your energy. It's just very, very joyful. And yeah, joy is something is really important to me and has, my Tai Chi teacher, Master Gu, is very joyful. And it seems a lot of the spiritual teachers are joyful because when we understand who we really are, we can see the cosmic joke, like the difference between a saint and a fool. The fool thinks they've got many serious moves to play, whereas the saint knows it's all a game. They may play the same moves, but there's the difference is the lightness. And so, what lights me up? Maybe that's a bit philosophical, but what lights me up is to hug a tree, to talk to a squirrel, to see my friend's baby gurgle, to drink an oat cappuccino, to dance and to do Tai Chi, to sing Pocahontas from Disney, to to make films and to serve people in the work that I do that lights me up. And I think it's really important that we get lit up. It's often, if we're hurting right now, and like we both share anxiety being something that has brought us onto this path, is that okay? To hurt is to be human. That's the Buddha's first insight. It's like, not life is suffering, but life has suffering. And we're not alone in that. And there's challenges to being a human today, but humans have always hurt. And so it's okay to hurt. And sometimes we think healing, maybe okay, I've got to go into that pain and sort it all out and go to therapy for 10 years. And there's a place for that. But I also think moving towards the light and to give ourselves the gift of joy each day, I think is a really powerful healing energy that we deserve.
Yeah, and it's so powerful. I love the way you just combine like philosophical stuff, so like the heady stuff, and just your documentaries just bring that energy. And sometimes you don't have to say anything, like just the way you edit, or just I think I was watching the Way Way documentary, and you just like jumped over that river stream, and that in itself is just so much wisdom, and it's like wow, you know. So I really like connected to that. So there's so many questions I could ask you, but I think I'd love just to go back because I remember when I first started watching your documentary, I think it was The Journey to the East. I was like, wow, this dude is also from UK and he just flew all the way, I think lockdown, right? To China. So I was wondering like if
I
you
took the
could
train.
took the train. So I was wondering if you could share like some of that journey. I think you mentioned the word underminer, which I have as well, like
Mm,
inner critic.
yeah.
So, how did that journey happen for you? And then, for people who are not familiar with the story, how did you end up going from UK to China during lockdown via train?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, to hurt is to be human. And I personified, well, my journey into this world started after university when I entered the big bad real world and was making videos on my YouTube channel, which I thought were good. Nobody was watching them. I equated my values as human beings with the number of likes I was getting. I wasn't getting any likes. Therefore, I wasn't likable. I was also single, not many friends, living with my parents, earning money with Deliveroo. There was a lot of kind of stuff in my life that I hadn't sorted out. And a new character began to dominate my headspace, who I personified as a troubled wizard called the Underminer. He would say, "Hey, George, still single, not many friends. Oh, and now you're anxious. You're pathetic. Look at everything you've been given. You're worthless." So that was my voice. And yeah, I felt shame about being anxious because, yeah, I felt like, well, I don't deserve to be anxious. And so I wouldn't share it. And I didn't really know what to do with this voice, but I knew I was hurting. And at uni, I'd watched some videos of monks doing backflips. I'd never done any martial arts. Literally, it's as arbitrary as that. And I wrote in my diary 2 years before heading, it's like, go learn in the monastery. And so I took a flight to China, anxious and confused, arrived at the monastery gates, big courtyard, walked into the courtyard, swirly roofs. There's a monk sweeping the floor. I go up to her and I say, Ni hao, Kung Fu. She's just like, sorry, what? I then try another monk who's carrying tea, and I say, Ni hao, Kung Fu. And again, she's just like, who is this guy? And it's as cliche as somebody coming up to you, a Chinese tourist, saying, fish and chips. It's just like very, very cliched. So I didn't speak any Chinese, didn't really know any Kung Fu. It turned up, I actually realized at a monastery that was just a Taoist monastery. It wasn't even a Kung Fu monastery. And I just done my research badly. And so then I turned to plan B. If I couldn't learn in a monastery, I'll learn in a Kung Fu school. So I enlisted the locals to help me with Google Translate. They took me to what I thought was a Kung Fu school, turned out to be a Tai Chi school. Thought Tai Chi, that's for older people. But I tried it and fell in love with it. I found Taoism, the philosophy of the mountain. I found meditation, which began to transform how I understood myself. And that was 8 years ago. So that was 2017. And in 2020, went across again via train, and that's a whole journey with COVID, which I could get into.
Wow,
And then, yeah, we're on the journey 8 years of sharing what I've been learning.
amazing. And I'm just wondering, what was that impulse that took you to move to that place? Because I think some people might feel that impulse, but other people just might never have that impulse. So, what was that kind of drew you to almost the other side of the world?
Yeah, so if the word spiritual works for people, for me, spiritual is an inclusive word. So It's about me understanding my place in the universe and my relationship to something bigger than myself. And more than that, it's the extent to which that understanding is a resource that can support me, that sense of connection.
Mm.
So, how do we start the spiritual journey? You can either really, to vastly simplify it, go through curiosity or go through pain. And I guess they're both curiosity, but I always assume people enter it through pain. But my mate once read Alan Watts and he's like, I think about all of this already. And then I'm like anxious, like, shit, how do I like find peace and like, why is life so hard? And my mate's like, wow, like the world's so cool. And wow, we're connected in all these ways. And wow, nature works in these ways. So, there's many paths, and we all will find our own unique way. And I don't think, I don't want to kind of I can't say that word, exotize,
Oh.
make China like having to go very far away in order to find ourselves is yeah, an illusion in my view.
Mm.
There's a beauty to stepping away from our everyday because then we see what's left of us. And ideally, we would want a guide, a mentor, somebody who's been on the path. And that doesn't just have to be a human, that could be a tree, it could be being in nature. And so if there isn't the spark to, go far, far away, there can be, little sparks, mini adventures to go out into nature. I think for me, that's been one of my biggest teachers to read books, to listen to podcasts. And yeah, I guess anyone who's listening to this has that curiosity about life already. And so I just say to follow that and, whatever somebody's spark is, not to compare against, my spark or yours, because we're all unique and all of our paths are unique. And I like to say that I'm certainly not a master or a guru, but I'm a wayfinder. So I'm on my way of life, and I hope I can support you on your way. And yeah, your way is different from mine, but like, hey, these are the challenges that I ran up against, and this is what helped me.
I love that because it's so like empowering and non-judgmental and just so many things at the same time. And I love that word of wayfinder because yeah, like you said, a teacher can be anything, like a tree or a person, and that's amazing. And I'm wondering, like, if you could share the story, like, how did you start to connect to Master Gu, and what was it that started on your journey, perhaps, of seeing things in a different way, and sort of these shifts that was occurring?
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe in my hubris, I was anxious and confused and feeling shame about it, thinking I was uniquely messed up for finding life hard. It's, poor me. Nobody understands me. My problems are so unique to my unique fucked upness.
Mm.
And then I got to China and found Master Gu, and I'll talk about Master Gu, and found Taoism. Reading the Tao Te Ching, the foundational book of Taoism, I was struck. Like this book was written 2,500 years ago on the other side of the planet, and I am a guy from Bristol growing up in England that then lives in the 21st century, reading this book, and it resonated so much. I'm like, wow, the ancient Chinese thought about these things as well, and they struggled like me as well. And that was a deeply connecting experience for me because I realized that to hurt is to be human and there is a path to peace. And that path to peace comes from understanding who we are and really how we work. How does the mind work? How does the heart work? And when we put time into understanding ourselves, then we gain clarity. And with clarity, the word wisdom comes from the root to see. The word wisdom comes from the root to see. So when we see clearly, we have clarity, we gain wisdom. And then with wisdom, we navigate life with skill. And then with that skill, we can live a harmonious, balanced, joyful life. So I found Taoism and I found Master Gu, who has, yeah, he's, complicated and a human like all of us. And I'd say one of his gifts among many is his joy. So I've already talked about it, but he has a very beautiful, playful, childlike sense of joy, one example is that when we'd have breakfast, every so often he'd pass around the boiled eggs, and then he'd break his egg by smashing it on his forehead and then opening it up. And this is the Taoist Tai Chi master smashing an egg on his forehead in the morning. Or I'd go for a high five, and like instead of getting a high five, he'd miss and on purpose, and it would all be very silly. Or playing guitar on the mountain, singing Chinese opera. Oh, out to the hills. And that was just very inspiring because, like I'm stuck in my head, like, oh,
Yeah.
life's so hard and I've made it to China and life's still hard, poor me. This kind of victim mentality. And then here's Master Gu just basically floating in joy. And he's got very little, it's like a very simple life. And yeah, that joy was available to him. So yeah, I've got three sentences that I think can change the world. I'll at
Let's
least
do it.
speak from my own. I'll speak from my own experience that they've changed my life. So then I'll leave it up to you whether you think they can change the world. Connection is the cure. Practice is the path. Service is the purpose. So connection is the cure. We hurt when we're disconnected from ourselves, parts of ourselves that we've repressed, when we're disconnected from our body, when we're disconnected from our relationships, when we're disconnected from nature. So connection is the cure. Then practice is the path. So practice, we maybe find through reading or like studying or being in nature, we find that new sense of connection, that sense of wholeness, that truth of what we already are. But then to keep that insight and energy alive, we need practice to keep that
Mm.
energy alive. And so then, that's where Master Gu guided me into Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation. And, for our listeners, it's, whatever your journey and practices are, to commit to a practice and daily practice being the key. And one of my mantras is don't make your practice so big that you don't do it.
Mm.
Don't make your practice so big that you don't do it. So even one breath, 5 breaths, 2 minutes, 5 minutes every day. So easy, so simple, so powerful. And then service is the purpose. Like once we've understood who we really are, our connection, keeping it alive through practice, then how do we want to show up in the world? As opposed to aiming for success, which unfortunately means we've defined ourselves as unsuccessful. So we're always craving for this wholeness. If I just get the job, if I just get the money, if I just get the kids, if I just get the house, if I just get the job, then I'll be enough. Except from we're conditioning our nervous system to always be
Mm.
having this happiness and contentment outside of ourselves. So we never arrive. And wait a sec, our whole society's set up to give us that bewitched illusion that that's the point of living, to always seek for the future gain. But if we can feel connection is the cure, practice is the path, I'm already whole, then from an empowered place, and that word empowered that you used, then I can choose how I want to spend my energy, how I want to show up in the world. And the beautiful thing about service as an energy to guide our lives by is that it feels really, really good. When we contribute to the needs of others, our own needs are met. That's ancient wisdom from Lao Tzu, the founder, the writer of the Tao Te Ching. When we serve the needs of others, our own needs are met.
Mm.
So connection is the cure, practice is the path, service is the purpose.
I love that so much. I think one thing that comes from my memory is when I was watching your documentary, you went to the mountains in Cairngorms. I haven't been there when it was snowy. I've been there when it was summer. But when you were there, you were like, we can have all of these insights. But then when we come back, like living with wisdom, it's so hard. And, I have a forest next to my home and I had this insight. Wow, I'm not my thoughts. But then I come back and that insight is lost. And I think, like what you said, just having that one breath, it just makes that whole shift. And I think that whole energy you bring of that just transforms your whole view that we are not our thoughts and we are not, um, this conditioning. And it's so simple and profound. And we also have this term in our culture. I come from a Sikh background tradition, wisdom tradition, and we use the word seva. And it's just amazing how all of the wisdom traditions, I think no matter what culture, all have these kind of like basic roots. So I was just wondering how maybe you could share some practices with the audience. How could we start shifting from our identity to a place of no thought, or shift to that place of almost effortless action?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, your experience of I'm not my thoughts is the root of the path to freedom. And it is so simple, yet so difficult. And often, the role of the guru is that there's a funny story of uh, a doctor who went to a temple and asked the head monk, it's like, how long would it take me to become enlightened? And the monk says, 10 years of meditation, 10 hours a day, you could go, you could do it. And the doctor said, well, no, I haven't got time for that. If I worked really hard and meditated 14 hours a day, how long would it take me? And the monk says, for you, 20 years.
Oh. Yeah.
So, yeah, we think often the only option we think is given to us is that we've got to take it's going to take a lot of energy. It's going to be really hard. I've got to work really hard at it in order to, find freedom or enlightenment or whatever word you want to use there. And the irony, the beautiful irony and paradox at the heart of it all is that the more you try, the further you are away,
Mm.
which can leave people in a bit of a pickle that, well, okay, I'm hurting right now, and I'm told that meditation and spirituality can lead me to freedom and enlightenment. But I've just been told that can't do anything to do that, whilst then I'm getting in my own way. And why do we get in our own way? Because if I'm trying to become enlightened, and like I'll speak for myself, like I went in 2017, I went to China for the first time, and I was searching for peace because I
Mm.
was hurting. But the problem with searching for peace is that I define myself as someone at war,
Mm.
someone at war with themselves. And so long as I was searching for peace, I necessarily got in my own way by definition. And so it's only when I let go of that there's anything to change, anywhere to go, anyone to be, that then semblances of that peace came to me. Enlightenment, a definition I love of enlightenment is the space between thoughts. So it's not just I reach enlightenment, ta-da, and then I'm levitating on a rock somewhere for the rest of my life. Like that's not enlightenment. For me, I see enlightenment as enlightening experiences where I have an experience of total acceptance of my present moment. And that can include thinking, it can include discomfort, it can include any sensation arising in my awareness.
Mm.
And if I can be with that and open up into it, then that is the spaciousness that really an enlightened being embodies. So we can't strive for it. And it comes from spaciously accepting the present moment as it is. How do we do that? Because the problem is that we cling, we think, we get stuck, we get lost in all of the hubbub of life. Emptiness, stillness, fasting the heart and mind, reducing sensation so that we can become more sensitive to, what is here? What does it mean for me to be a thinking and feeling being? As you said at the start, I'm not just my thoughts. Like a thought is an energy arising in my awareness. I can allow it to come and go. And so to actively have moments of stillness throughout the day, and then ideally extended times of stillness. I'm about to go on my third Vipassana, 10-day Buddhist silent meditation retreat. I don't know what the practices in the Sikh traditions are, but yeah, to have an extended period of silence can be a really powerful and essential step on the journey.
Amazing. And as you speak, I can almost feel that stillness. It's so powerful, and hopefully the viewers can feel that too. Um, yeah, like from the Sikh wisdom tradition, there's so many. Like there's Simran, which is just remembrance of that in your heart, or there's singing, devotional, like you said, service. So yeah, it's all the things are always there and always shared. So I was wondering if you could also share, because actually I'm working in the corporate world as well, and in the corporate world, I notice there's a powerful way this wisdom, if you like, this way of being can be used in an environment that is such high pace and high pressure. And Wu Wei seems to speak to that because a lot of force, a lot of effort is put in into people's jobs, whether they be in corporate or maybe other places. So could you maybe explain the terminology Wu Wei? Ah, and I think we're
Well,
bringing the yin and yang up.
yeah.
I like
So
this.
for those who are watching, I've got a yin yang in me, but for those who are listening, I'll explain. So yeah, I mean, we're speaking to something fundamental. Like, we live in a modern, complex capitalist system, and we need money in order to pay for rent and pay for our lives.
Yeah.
And meditation and this path wouldn't be very helpful if we could only do it when we're out in nature or in a monastery.
Mm.
And I'm really passionate about bringing it into the world. And my organization, Balance is Possible. I've got 17 team members, and we run the biggest Tai Chi school in the world, and just released a film. And I work passionately many hours. And so it's like the Taoist path or any of these paths, they don't, in my view, lead us to inactivity. If we want to rest, great, beautiful, to really allow ourselves to rest without guilt. But it's not just do nothing. And so Wu Wei is a concept in Taoism, and Wu means non and Wei means action. So it means non-action. So many people can confuse that with literally doing nothing. But it's referring to the non-action or the effortless spontaneity that we see throughout nature.
Oh.
So this beautiful tree, is that a tree? That's a plant.
Maybe one day.
This beautiful plant is this beautiful plant is doing its thing. It's growing, it's blooming, it's opening. It's got those little balls of goodness that it can then go get planted somewhere else. And it does that without any additional effort. It does that with the exact amount of energy that's needed. What it doesn't do is get stuck looping, like, am I a good enough plant in order to propagate? Like, oh, like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I'm a shit plant, and like my mum and dad never showed me enough love, so I'm just going to play victim for my whole life and not be a plant. It's like we're the only species that can stop our own blooming.
Yeah.
Right?
We
plant life. We get in our own way.
Yeah.
Which is again the beautiful thing about being a human. So like there doesn't have to be a judgment around that. It's like it is part of the dance of being a human, is that we get in our own way and we get lost, and then we ideally find ourselves. So Wu Wei is where we can act in the world, but we don't have all of this unnecessary additional burden and additional excess energy that we're wasting, and we actually can show up with spontaneity and joy and ease and effortlessness. So that's the aspiration and the ideal. And yeah, I'm bringing the yin yang to show the kind of the duality between doing and being. So yang and yin, yang, fang. Think about your white fang. Yang is white, and then yin, bin. Not a very harmonious rhyme, but that's the black part. And so yin and yang together, action and non-action, doing and non-doing, action and rest. That is one of the fundamental dualities of life, and something that we have to navigate, in our modern complex societies. So the aspiration is Wu Wei, effortless action. And how do we do it? Well, really, it's a training, is to notice when we get in our own way, when we judge ourselves, when we don't trust ourselves, when we only use our head, instead of being able to come and trust ourselves in the present moment. And through that awareness being the start of the journey, like I said earlier, like wisdom comes from the root to see. So when we have clarity, we see clearly, we gain wisdom. With wisdom, then we can navigate life with skill. So the first stage is to notice our patterns of striving, craving, anxiety, confusion, to not judge it, to just, okay, say, here I am, here are my patterns. It's not my fault. I'm born in a complex world with complex biology. But then through practice and the training is to then let go of what isn't serving us, come into the present moment as a refuge, as a place to lead our lives from. And then step by step, piece by piece, part by part, day by day, breath by breath, then live life with more skill, ease, and flow and wu wei.
Wow. So beautifully said. And yeah, I think I've heard it once, like the thoughts are like a car engine. It's like slowly turning the engine off until the car starts like cruising by itself.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, because from a biological perspective, get my other prop out.
Oh yeah, we've got all the props today.
Got all the props, which is the brain, which is the, our society's like rational thinking is who we are. I think, therefore I am.
Uh-huh.
And, it kind of makes sense that we identify with our thoughts because, we're narrating in our heads the whole time. But we're not just our thoughts. We are embodied awareness. So, emotions and sensations, sounds, the sensation of the breath, whatever. This is an experience that we can have. Just because we're not thinking for a moment, maybe in the shower, doesn't mean we don't exist. All right, we're not just our thoughts. And then, from that beautiful metaphor you used of the thoughts slowing down is when the engine can just run by itself, is that from an evolutionary perspective, and this is another really important thing to build compassion, is to understand, we're natural beings. We come from the process of evolution. We have emotions that work through our nervous system. Is that all of these sensations coming from our body and from our eyes, etc., come up the brainstem, and then there's kind of like a filtering system. So if it can be done automatically, so what's an automatic response? So like breathing our breath, beating our heart, all of this stuff is done automatically without thinking. Yeah, blinking, all of this stuff. But even like a challenge of, okay, here we go. So the classic example, you put your hand on a hot plate or a hot pan, your hand comes off, right? Then your thoughts come afterwards saying, wow, that was hot. I shouldn't do that again. But all of the protection was done without us thinking. Or take chess, the grandmasters, the moves come to them. It's not rationally like, oh, should I move the queen to a4, whatever. It's an intuitive coming from the nervous system, coming from the intuitive wisdom. So that's a long way of saying that actually thoughts are often the things where our intuitive wisdom hasn't got an answer, and only then will it create a thought saying, yeah, this is something that we need to navigate using this amazing prefrontal cortex that we've got, which is the source of our rational cognitive thinking. It's only if the intuitive wisdom can't sort it out by itself, right? Which is then a huge, like a FU is the only not very skillful way of saying it, to like the assumptions of our society, which is like rational thinking is not only who we are, but like the only intelligence in the universe. Is that actually rational thinking is when all the other intelligence and wisdom of the body fails, and then it needs to pop up a thought to help us then to navigate it.
Amazing. And it's so funny the way you described it, and I love the model. It's like we've got it back to front, back to front, like. And I'm wondering how. So you mentioned Tao before. We mentioned the thoughts. I'm wondering how this connects together, because people who are not familiar with Tao Te Ching or Tao, and I get that it's maybe a big concept, but how could you start to connect what the Tao is and what we just discussed there on a human level?
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful question. So, what is the Tao? Big mystery, big question. So, yeah, I'll give you an answer and then we'll go to the mystery. And so the Tao literally means the way, the Chinese character. So the Tao of Taoism means the way or the path.
Mm.
And it refers to the ways of the universe, so like something as big as the ways of the cosmos. So that could be the word God, it could be the word, the forces of nature, the great mystery, the bigger story. But then also the Tao is the way. So it can be like our way through life.
Uh-huh.
So the Tao of Jhoty, the Tao of George, the Tao of knitting, the Tao of earplugs, the Tao of mugs, like whatever, the a pattern is, a way, a path. So to understand the Tao is to understand the way of that thing that we are exploring. So it's mysterious because we live in this infinitely complex world, and we're not our thoughts. Rational cognitive thinking came very late in the story of life. The planet's been around for 4.5 billion years. Conscious rational thought only came the last 200,000 years, something like that. And so, we put so much importance on this little aspect of human consciousness, let alone, the universe, as being what intelligence is. So necessarily the Tao has to be mysterious. It's so big. But it doesn't mean we can't understand it. And so coming back to, all these the science of our nervous systems, how we think, how we feel, how that actually works, so that we can build compassion for ourselves, is us understanding our Tao, is understanding our ways of nature. And again, when we gain wisdom, we navigate life with skill,
Yeah.
and with skill, we find balance and peace. And so understanding the Tao is a process of learning, observation, learning both from the outside in, so like learning courses and books and teachers, then also the inside out of actually being present with the experiences that are here to then better understand what's the Tao, what's the world, how does it all work.
Amazing. So it's like, yeah, I think we have like a similar. It's amazing how every Western tradition have these similar wording. So we have one called Ik Oankar, which is like it's one like emanation, vibration that does everything. And it's just it's so amazing how all of these concepts is just all of the wisdom traditions have got to. And as you share that, you mentioned Tai Chi at the start, and that you wanted to go for Kung Fu. So
Yeah.
how did Tai Chi help you connect to this way of being and sense the way of being of other things, such as the mugs or the plants you were talking about? Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt your podcast, but if I could please ask you to take the time to like and subscribe to this channel. It would help us as we try to grow this channel and share our guests' deep wisdom with you and the rest of the world. What lights you up? Why do I ask this? Because I want to create a space for you to go slow to go far and offer a space of one-to-one coaching, and I'll put some testimonials up here. This will allow you to access all of the wisdom for our illuminating dialogues, actually integrate and implement this wisdom in your daily life for whatever means you'd like to transform, live in alignment, live in purpose, and of course live in your dharma. If that resonates with you, you can book a session directly with me on jhoty.com. If you would like to join the free community, you can also go to jhoty.com. All the links are in the description, and connect with like-minded people, where we also have a chat about the next Illuminating Dialogue podcast episodes. So thank you again, everybody, for supporting this podcast. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, a quote I love by Ken Robinson is for most people, the body is a vehicle to move the brain between meetings.
Ah.
And that was certainly how I saw my body. Like I tried to eat healthily, I ran, and I didn't really see my body though as a refuge, as a friend, as actually, part of who I am and like a place I could rest my awareness, a teacher. And I think many of us in the West and modern life, not just the West, are disembodied. We through our phones, we are, constantly just eyes thinking, dopamine, images, and we rarely have the spaciousness to come into the body,
Mm.
unless we get sick and ill, and then we really focus on the body. So for me, Tai Chi is a beautiful training in self-awareness. And by that I mean the big self, the heart, the mind, the body, and seeing how I work. Tai Chi comes from the martial art culture. It's a moving meditation where we move with the breath like yoga. And yeah, I found like I was getting injuries. I had like 7 injuries when I first started
Wow.
because it requires strong legs, because it's about opening up the hips. And what I found through that was some amazing things about my body that, yeah, it's intelligent. Like I was always struck that the Tai Chi form that took me months to remember, suddenly my body did it without any thinking, and it could just do it by itself. Such a beautiful, deep experience. And then, yeah, the resilience and strength and beauty of my body and all bodies, no matter their shapes and fitness and stiffness and injuries, that for me, Tai Chi is a philosophy for life. That if I can accept myself where I am and to
Mm.
move from where I am with joy and acceptance, then that's when a beautiful life is possible. And Tai Chi is a training to help us access that ease and that access and that acceptance.
Mm. Amazing. And there was this word, I think you used it was chi, and I think we have
Mm,
a similar word in India. It's called prana. And
mm,
is how would you explain that? Is that like a life force, or does that get activated through the Tao, or what is this
mm,
mysterious
mm.
word?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so chi is life force energy, and it's also the breath.
Aha!
So that's pretty interesting. So that same character means the energy that powers the whole universe and the breath,
Wow.
which is, yeah, just showing how I think prana has the same double meaning,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
it
pretty
does.
cool. That intuition, yeah, ruach in Hebrew, spiritus, to be inspired,
Aha!
to take an inspiration is both an inhale and it's also then the spirit. So this is an intuition discovered all around the world. Tai Chi is not Tai Chi. In Chinese, Tai Chi is Tai Ji, Ji. So we spelt it wrong in the 40s. So so the best way to understand it, Qi Gong, people know about. Qi is energy or breath, Gong practice, energy practice, breath practice. Tai Chi is then a type of Qigong. So Tai Chi means supreme harmony principle.
Ah,
So, or I like to call it supreme harmony movement. And so Tai Chi is a form of movement. Well, Tai Chi Chuan is like supreme harmony boxing, where through movement we embody the supremely harmonious principles of the universe. And for me, it comes back to the Tao, is that when we understand our ways of nature and we give ourselves what we deeply need, we gain energy. So, if we sleep well, we eat well, we move our bodies, we do things that are joyful, we gain energy, right? We gain chi.
mm,
And so that's really the fundamentals for me, is that, Tai Chi trains me to work with my breath and to breathe in a slow, calm way. It strengthens my body so that I have more energy and more chi. And then is a joyful gift that I give myself to express myself. And that gives me even more chi. So yeah, we don't need to get too esoteric with it. It's simple. Yeah, move the body, move the mind, move the heart, then more chi is available to us.
Amazing. And yeah, I think that's something we miss is just that life force that keeps us going and to nourish that. And just as we slowly wrap up, I'd love just to end on your newest documentary. You make amazing videos as an editor myself. I love it. If you could just talk about what kind of inspired you to make such a lot of losing yourself and yeah, and what kind of caused that spark in you to kind of go into the Cairngorms and share that wisdom?
Mm. Yeah, so my second film, A Subtle Art of Losing Yourself, came out on YouTube just on Saturday of the week of we've been recording this. And it's been 2 years in the making, and it feels very exciting to get it out. And my organization is called Balance is Possible. I'm wearing the merch.
Awesome.
And yeah, the mission that I'm on, and I guess, all of us that care about life are on is to help people and planet live in balance. We have so much beauty that we are born with and born into. We also have a lot of challenging tendencies that we are born with and trauma that we're born into. But balance is possible, healing is possible, change is possible. And I know that to be true because for thousands of years, all around the world, there have been practices and wisdom traditions, both you and I speaking from different traditions and backgrounds, to speak to life can be hard and it doesn't have to be that way. Peace is possible. And so then if we ask the question, well, why is life still so hard and why are we destroying our ability to live on this planet when, our technology is so powerful and we've achieved so much? For me, I think there's a deep underlying cause of many of our challenges. And again, it comes back to those sentences that I said at the start. We're disconnected, and I do see connection as the cure. We're disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from ourselves, we're disconnected from our own potential, and then almost educated out of that.
Mm.
Keep your head down, just work, don't ask questions, get on with it. And so my life mission is to contribute to the collective movement that seeks to celebrate and protect the flourishing of life, to help us see our own potential. And for me, I've found my own potential often through being in nature. And the film is recorded in the Cairngorm Mountains, and we see the amazing snow hares and reindeer and the trees and the squirrels, and we see their intelligence. And then we ask the question, well, if they're intelligent, what does that say about our intelligence and where we come from? And then you and I, we adventure through the mountains and then find an awe-inspiring understanding of who we really are and our place in the universe. And really, observation being the key. Is like, you've got to make your own understandings, but here's some pretty cool stuff about you and the world. And then how does that integrate into the story of who you are? And the motto of our organization is change your story, change the world. Because if enough of us come together with that transformed story, then the systems that shape our world begin to transform too.
Amazing. Such a powerful, beautiful, brave message. And I hope that really resonates with the listeners. Thank you for all you do. Because it truly is a time of connection to nature, our own nature. And no pun intended, or pun intended, you truly are a curious George. So I wanted to say that. So with that being said, is there any message you'd like to leave for our audience? And also, where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you if they want to connect and join you and learn more?
Yeah, so I'd love everyone to watch the film. It's 45 minutes, a fun thing to put on in the evening with friends and family. And I also run retreats and events around the world now. We've got an amazing one in Wales coming up where we've got waterfalls and rock pools, and we're going to connect with nature and connect with our own potential, and also run events online. And balanceispossible.com is the place that people can find that. And yeah, I just want to celebrate you, Jyoti. Love your energy. We only just met today. And yeah, just keep on shining your light and inspiring your community, because yeah, all of us are unique and different, and all of us can serve different people because yeah, we're all unique, and so yeah, all of us matter on this path. So more power to you. And my message is that we do matter, and it can feel like the world being so big is that I mean nothing, and it's all bigger than me. And okay, it doesn't rely on any one of us to change the world, but it does rely on people like you and I changing. And so our if we show up with presence and joy and seek to heal our trauma and ideally pass a little bit less on to the next generation, those effects cannot be measured, but they can be felt. And so I just, yeah, honor all of our viewers and listeners just to keep going step by step, piece by piece, balance as possible for you, for me, for humanity.
Amazing. Balance is possible. Thank you again, George, for your time. I really deeply appreciate it. And of course, thank you everybody for your time, for watching. And I'll leave all the links in the description below if you want to find out more about George and everything he's doing. Thank you.